Parkside Cabin Rentals, affordable rustic luxury in the Smokies. Chalets and log cabins, from intimate to grand. In town or in total seclusion, we can fit any need you have. Visit ParksideCabinRentals.com. Plan your vacation today.
Southeast Termite and Pest Control can help protect your home from animals, trapping and relocating wildlife, fixing the damage they cause, and preventing them from invading your home in the first place. Call Southeast Termite and Pest Control and ask about our many services.
The following is a presentation of Fox 43 Sports.
Let's talk Tennessee football. This is the Sports Source Kickoff, presented by Parkside Cabin Rentals. Now, your host, John Pennington.
Good Saturday morning. It's not game day morning, at least not for Tennessee, but we are right back here on the Sports Source Kickoff presented by Parkside Cabin Rentals to talk about Tennessee football, of course. You got an offensive coordinator search that's going on. You've got recruiting that Tennessee's right in the middle of. And also we've got a question about, could a 5-7 season have been better, been more easily accepted if it was still 5-7, but there were just a couple of tweaks to it? I'll explain that later. You're here for the offensive coordinator talk, I'm guessing. Let's get into it. First segment of our program brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals and their sister property, the Lodge at 5 Oaks. Recently renovated for $6 million. This family-owned property is right in the heart of the dining and entertainment district of Sevierville. It is adjacent to Tanger Outlets at 5 Oaks, so if you want to go up there for the Christmas shopping, make it a night. Make it a 2-day event. Get up there. Hardwood floors, hickory furniture. You can't beat the airy farmhouse feel, you can tell I didn't write that, of the Lodge at 5 Oaks. Parkside Cabin Rentals, the Lodge at 5 Oaks. Check out their website, which is on the front of my desk on the monitor, which you can see right there. The other guys you can see here with me are Josh Ward from WNML, Jimmy Himes from WNML. That's Jimmy Himes, not Jimmy Himes, the fake Twitter goon. And there's Ryan Callahan from Go Vols 24/7. Thank you all for being here. After a single season, Tyson Helton has jumped ship and become a head coach at Western Kentucky. That leaves Jeremy Pruitt to find a new offensive coordinator. Let's throw out some of the names here that have been kicked around. Dan Enos, the Alabama quarterbacks coach who called plays at Arkansas before arriving at Alabama. Hugh Freeze, the former Ole Miss head coach. The NCAA hit him for not monitoring his program. The SEC kind of blackballed him last year when he was going to be an analyst on Alabama's staff. If you're an Alabama fan, you're probably not liking the fact that he was banned from your program, but he's going to be cleared for Tennessee perhaps. Freddie Kitchens, offensive coordinator for Cleveland Browns. You'd think, why would he come back? Well, certainly a relationship with Pruitt, but also you don't know what the Haslam family is going to do with the Browns right now in terms of their head coaching situation. Brian McClendon, whose name really isn't hot this time around. Pruitt went after him last year when he was at South Carolina as offensive coordinator. He got the promotion to be the full-time guy this past year. And then Chip Lindsey, Auburn offensive coordinator, that a lot of people are interested in. And the interesting thing there is, I don't know, that Gus Malzahn is interested in keeping him. So those are some of the names, but the one that has gotten the most talk all week long since this Helton thing came apart, or since he left, Hugh Freeze, the former Ole Miss coach, as I mentioned. It's funny, for 5 years, if you check Tennessee Twitter or Tennessee message boards, he was a cheating scumbag, liar, using his religion as a calling card. Now he's the answer. But here's a guy with NCAA issues. Ole Miss still on probation because of what he did there. He was hit for failing to monitor his assistants and the boosters in the program. He had no clue why all those 5 stars were popping up in Mississippi. Your thoughts on Hugh Freeze? He also, of course, he had the personal situation. Everybody's heard about the escorts that were called from the Ole Miss phones, the business phones. Your thoughts on Hugh Freeze? Are you surprised that the discussion has kind of centered on him?
I am a little bit. Yeah, look, I think he's a really good football coach, and I think he's an innovative offensive mind. There are 2 reasons I'm a bit surprised. One is he likes to run a wide-open offense and spread the field, and I don't think Tyson Helton was allowed to do that much at Tennessee. So I was surprised. I didn't think he would fit what Jeremy Pruitt's scheme would be. The other one would be he's a schemer. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many people at Tennessee in the upper ranks would want that. I was told by one source today that a high-ranking official at UT said, we're not hiring that guy. Somebody else said, yeah, they are. I don't know which way they're going to go, John. but I was a little bit surprised to see as much momentum for him from the fan base.
It couldn't be that inside the ivory towers over there at Tennessee that there are different opinions. And
that never happens in Knoxville.
University of Tennessee is always on the same page. Their people over there are always on the same page. Johnson, are you surprised at how much this thing has focused in on Freeze so far?
Well, with him appearing more hireable in terms of the SEC maybe not wanting to block at this time, that part doesn't surprise me that there would be interest. Also, Jeremy Pruitt has showed that he wants to get the best assistants that he can. I thought he put together a pretty good staff in year one. In terms of the offensive scheme, it would, no matter what the hire ends up being, if it's Freeze or somebody else, I'm still going to be left wondering, okay, what exactly is it going to look like, the offensive system that's coming in and how it's married to what Jeremy Pruitt wants to do. I think that's a huge question, what Jeremy Pruitt wants the offense to be.
Well, to your point there, you wonder if Pruitt saw the offense that he wanted to implement and it didn't work. He's like, oops, okay, I need to open it up.
Yeah, I think it is a big opportunity for Jeremy Pruitt to adjust a little bit after year one. You don't get this opportunity very often, but to have a chance to maybe reassess some things, decide if you want to tweak things a little bit, that's, I think, a big part of what decision you ultimately make with a hire like this. Do you go for a guy like Hugh Freeze when, again, like Jimmy said, Tyson Helton probably wasn't allowed to do exactly what he wanted to do offensively? I thought at first that a guy who's got more of a history with Jeremy Pruitt made more sense, but Jeremy Pruitt's shown he's willing to go and make some outside hires, at least David Johnson last year as wide receivers coach, not a guy he's worked with before. So I think he'll do it in some situations. Will he for such an important hire? I think it's interesting, but I'm not surprised the fans have kind of latched on to him, though, because he's a big name and obviously had some offensive success at Ole Miss.
He did, and I'm all for second chances. I really am. All for second chances. I just like them to be handed out equally.
Here's the difference. Alabama went after him last year. I think that changes the perception a little bit, because if Alabama doesn't do that, maybe Tennessee looking like the first one to do it.
Ryan, I think he beat Alabama. I think that's what Tennessee
that's
fans
part
are.
of it too.
Yeah,
it's part of it.
Last year, Greg Schiano, that's unforgivable. It's a different thing. His wasn't proven. Freeze is proven, but it's different. So yeah, we're good with this. We're not good with that. The bottom line is he beat Alabama.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Twice.
And people think Alabama might hire him this time too. Yeah. If Mike Locksley leaves for Maryland, they think that Alabama might scoop him up.
Yeah. There's a point about the SEC I want to make too, and I believe that Greg Sankey in the SEC office discouraged Alabama and Tennessee. I also asked about him last year too. I think they discouraged him because Ole Miss was still on bowl ban probation. Now that that's done, I think that Sankey looks at that differently. He did not want him in the SEC as long as Ole Miss couldn't go to a bowl game. Now that that's over, I think he would not get in the way.
I read a message board comment today that was rather amusing. It said, Tennessee is so bad. It said, only 3 teams in the league didn't make it to a bowl game. Arkansas, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is on probation. We've got to hire Hugh Freeze. I'm like, you realize why Ole Miss is on probation, don't you? Anyway, how much do you think Jeremy Pruitt, and this is something, if you go back, I mentioned this on your radio show this week, and a couple of people got upset that you didn't say that during the season. I hinted at it during the season. I didn't want to blow my source. Back in late September, early October, if you remember on the Sunday show, I brought up the fact that how many of these coaches are still going to be around next year? Pressure bust pipes, there could be some people that don't feel like they're allowed to do their thing. Well, yeah, that's what I heard at the time, and that's the way I doled it out there without uncovering a source and blabbing it with Helton still around, because Helton would have known where it came from. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know that Ty Helton was allowed to do everything he wanted to do. Depending on who they hire at this time, do we feel that Jeremy Pruitt is going to be willing to say, here, it's your offense, I no longer want to look at the play sheet. I'm no longer going to comment after every loss in the post-game presser about offensive play calls. Do we think he's ready to do that if he trusts the guy he hires, or jury out on that one?
So, jury's out, but someone phrased it to me this way. Does maybe Jeremy Pruitt and that staff approach things differently if there is a bigger name offensive coordinator who's a little more proven in the meeting room? I think that maybe makes a difference. A guy like Tyson Helton never had been a full-time play caller. Maybe he didn't have the complete command of the room, and maybe a guy like Hugh Freeze would carry a little more weight in there, and people would listen to him.
I seem to remember someone who was called negative all summer long kept pointing out, is it a concern you have a bunch of first-time play callers? And they called him negative. Who was that guy? Oh, it was me. It was me. That's right. I think that's legitimate. You did have somebody learning on the job. That's why if there were 2 things I would put into this that were musts for Tennessee. 1, go find you somebody that's called plays before. 2, if it were me, I wouldn't. Tennessee has been like they're on probation anyway. The last thing I would do is get the NCAA to start sniffing around Knoxville. I don't think you want any part of that. But again, if that's where they go, that's where they go. But those would be the two things I would want. Somebody who's done it before, and it sounds like most of the candidates he's talking to have, which is a good thing. And then, again, I would be a little concerned with the NCAA stuff. Clearly, it's also important to get someone that he is comfortable with, because he knew Helton, but how much had they really, how much did they mesh? We don't know. It would be good if he had one of these guys, Enos, Lindsey, who's known, somebody he meshed with.
And make sure the offensive staff meshes, right? Because just a few years ago, Tennessee had a big hire with Bob Shoop coming in.
Yeah.
And he was a very well thought of defensive coordinator. I don't know that he meshed completely with the staff that he inherited. You want to make sure that that happens with Hugh Freeze or any other offense coordinator that takes over. It's just so important.
And if they do hire Hugh Freeze, they get the big name this time around. Considering how all those big name coordinator hires have flopped in the past, they're due. They're due for this one to work. They're due for this one to work. When we come back, we're going to talk recruiting. Next week, this show is going to be all about recruiting. But next, Tennessee lands a big quarterback commitment, and Ryan Callahan's going to step us through three of the biggest dogfights Tennessee is in the middle of. That is next on the Sports Source Kickoff, presented by Parkside Cabin Rentals.
Did you know English Mountain Spring Water has been named the world's best tasting water? That a French competition declared it a gourmet water? Did you know English Mountain Spring Water is bottled in Dandridge? And it's available for commercial and residential water service across East Tennessee. Clear, pure water with no aftertaste. From an East Tennessee source and a local company providing unmatched service. English Mountain Spring Water.
The Lodge at Five Oaks, conveniently located within walking distance to some of the area's best attractions, restaurants, and shops. Call now for special rates throughout the week or visit thelodge@fiveoaks.com to plan your next getaway today.
Since 1971, Southeast Termite and Pest Control has offered free inspections, multiple pest control options, and guaranteed termite prevention and correction. Times have changed. Our service hasn't. Southeast Termite and Pest Control.
Under Tennessee law, you're entitled to money damages for injuries caused by the negligence of others. How much money often depends on the diligence, skill, and experience of your attorney. A Knoxville law firm has been helping injured people for more than 30 years.
At Bill Hodson Associates, we've collected millions of dollars from insurance companies that didn't want to treat injured people fairly. Is your case worth more than the insurance company says? Call Bill Hodson Associates and find out.
When it comes to your business, no one provides better security and life safety systems than Safety Systems. Protect your employees, your products, and your records with a single phone call. Professional technicians ready to design, install, and monitor your cutting-edge fire and security systems. Electric locks and surveillance cameras. Emergency and after-hours response and repairs. Trust Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in security and life safety systems.
Just 60 miles from Knoxville, adventure meets sanctuary at the historic Tapoco Lodge. Originally opened in 1930, this renovated, reborn mountain retreat offers cozy, well-appointed rooms, cabins, and suites, waterfront dining, our warm signature service, and plenty of outdoor sports and activities, all within our riverside, creekside, and forest setting. Experience the historic Tapoco Lodge, where adventure meets sanctuary.
Parkside Cabin Rentals, affordable rustic luxury in the Smokies. Hot tubs, pool tables, fireplaces inside and out. Our cabins are perfect for relaxing or entertaining. Visit parksidecabinrentals.com. Plan your vacation today.
Welcome back into the Sports Source Kickoff, this segment of our program brought to you by English Mountain Spring Water, available for commercial and residential service. This water, which comes straight from a spring in Dandridge, I have been there, I've seen it. It's been named the world's best water. It has zero aftertaste, and I honestly mean that. Zero aftertaste. How good is it? Well, if you are at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas and order a bottle, $90 bottle of Bling H2O, that's actually English Mountain Spring Water. They just bottle it for the folks that put the label on that says Bling H2O. So I hope they're getting a good cut of the $90 they're selling it for at the Mirage. You can get it a heck of a lot cheaper at your home or work. English Mountain Spring Water. Okay. Four-star quarterback Harrison Bailey out of Georgia chose the Vols over Michigan this week. The bad part is he's a 2020 commit, so it's not next year. Tennessee had a quarterback, and Will McBride announced that he's leaving, so you're not putting one for one here, but it's a pretty big commit moving ahead. Ryan, tell us a little bit about Harrison Bailey and how big is this commitment for Tennessee?
It's big for perception. It's big for making more progress in the state of Georgia. Harrison Bailey also happens to go to a loaded school in Marietta High School just outside Atlanta. He's a teammate of Ramel Keaton, the 4-star Tennessee wide receiver commitment, has several other highly ranked teammates in the 2020 class that Tennessee is already after, so maybe this helps with some of those guys, but definitely gives you a quarterback to build around, which is a big deal in most recruiting classes. This allows, you know, receivers, running backs, tight ends, offensive linemen, any of those guys on the offensive side of the ball, and even on defense sometimes, to see what you have to build around in the future and know who they're going to be playing with. But Bailey's a strong-arm kid. He's been a big-time prospect basically since he went into high school. He first started getting offers when he was in 8th grade. Tennessee hosted him on a visit more than 2 years ago into the former staff. So he's used to being in the spotlight. I think that's a big deal in the SEC. Good release, accurate, getting more accurate every year, and I think has a bright future. And quarterbacks, you never know. Highly ranked guys bust sometimes, but I think he's got all the tools you want, including the right mindset to be a good quarterback.
Quickly, any concerns about him? I mean, this is a year away, so you've now got this egg you're going to put in the nest, and you got to sit on it and protect it for a while. Any concerns that he might flip?
I don't think so. Because he's been through the recruiting process for so long and been doing it for 3 years basically, I think he and his family view this as a final decision. And you never know, other schools are going to continue to make a run at him, of course, but I think they view this as being a done deal, and he's already planning to be an early enrollee next year, so he's essentially a year away from signing, so not quite a year and a half you've got to hold on to him.
Okay, I tell you what, let's run through. We've got about a minute on each of these guys. I asked you for 3 of the biggest dogfights that Tennessee's currently in the middle of. The first one, Eric Gray. There you go. Got your 24/7 grade there as a 4-star. That's the least amount of any of these 3 guys we're going to talk about, and it's still pretty good. Your thoughts on Eric Gray, the running back out of Memphis?
Yeah, and he's a guy our analysts are high on. We've got him rated as a top 100 player in the country, the #1 all-purpose back in the country. A guy that not everybody was necessarily sold on coming out of the summer, but his stock has continued to rise in recent months. He's got 3 straight 2,000-yard seasons in high school, the first 3-time Mr. Football winner in the state of Tennessee's history. So really impressive there. Michigan has had him since July, but he hasn't been back to Michigan since then. So it seems all but inevitable that he's going to flip. The bigger question is, will it be Tennessee, Ole Miss, or will even Alabama maybe swoop in? He's talked about taking an official visit there in a couple weeks. If he does, and if Alabama misses out on some other running backs, maybe it gets more interesting. But right now, Tennessee's in the driver's seat and in good shape right now.
Okay, let's take a look at the second one. There we go. Owen Papo, the 5-star outside linebacker from Loganville, Georgia. Looks like a 2-team race there. Is that correct?
That is pretty much correct. The only other team that could be a factor down the stretch would be Georgia. They hosted him for a game a few weeks ago. Doesn't look likely that he ends up there, though. He's kind of as you can tell from his size, a little bit of a tweener almost for college. Sort of small for a linebacker, but really, really athletic. A guy who's been to the opening finals, the All-Star event out in Oregon and Texas this year. He's been there 3 times. So he's been a big-time prospect, much like Harrison Bailey, for a few years now. Ran a sub-4.5 40-yard dash this year. Really impressive speed and athleticism overall. A guy Tennessee has coveted for a long time. He's just been committed to Auburn for more than 6 months now. So Tennessee's got a shot to flip him late. They got him on campus last month, and now they're going to get an official visit from him in the next couple of weeks. So it's trending toward Tennessee, but Auburn's still putting up a big fight, and we'll see if they can hold on.
Okay, one more. Let's do recruiting dogfight number 3, and that's Darnell Wright, 5-star offensive tackle. Boy, they need those from West Virginia. Looks like Alabama, Tennessee. Anybody else in that one, or is that that's duo?
Not just those 2. He's already scheduled his first official visit, and it's to neither of those. It's to Georgia here in the next couple of weeks. It looks like Alabama and Tennessee will likely get official visits from him in January or a little closer to signing day, because he will take this one in all likelihood to National Signing Day in February or pretty close to that, unless something changes. So right now it does look like those 2 teams are in the best shape with him. There are others that we'll see if they have to fight anybody else off down the stretch. But Tennessee, I think, has been kind of in the driver's seat. But Alabama, they've got him and another 5-star offensive lineman kind of in their crosshairs. You always worry with Alabama. If it's a guy they really covet, they don't lose many of those battles. Right. So I think it's still going to be a dogfight down the stretch. But Tennessee's positioned themselves well. I've gotten him on campus at least 5 times so far, so they're in good shape. But it's going to be a fight all the way to the end.
Jimmy, Josh, obviously signing day is huge for every school in the country. If you're down where Tennessee has been, it's more important, or even more important. And if your coach has spent the back half of the season saying, I got to get better players in here, doesn't that ramp it up even more? How huge is this signing day for Jeremy Pruitt after his message to his own team and beyond over the last 6-7 weeks?
Yeah, I don't even think it's our opinion at this point that it's
Right.
huge, because we've heard so much about it from Tennessee's head coach and Tennessee's coaching staff that they have to sign a big class. They need new players. Well, if you need new players and you want to compete with Alabama and Georgia, you've got to beat out those schools for some of those players.
Well, and not only that, I'll be interested to see how he gets 25 in here. Because you had the 3 grad transfers that are supposed to count against this class. So there's some blue shirts out there that we don't know about. I don't know, but I'll be curious to see what he does. I think this is going to be a really good class, but I would bet you this. I bet you the 20 commits, some will fall by the wayside and they'll add some more. So I don't think the number of 20 that you're seeing right now will necessarily be the same names that they end up signing.
Yeah. Where do you guys have them ranked at this moment?
About number 15, and they've been kind of hovering around that spot because they haven't added a new commitment in more than 3 months. That's all about to change here pretty soon. I think they've got a lot of guys they're still in the mix for who will sign early, several who will enroll in January. So you know some of these will be wrapping up soon. If they add some of these highly ranked guys they're still after, like Owen Papo, they'll move up quite a bit.
For all the talk he's done, I think that's one of the dangers in talking about I've got to get better players in here. Even though it's true, the danger is you're not going to have a fan base that is already salivating for National Signing Day. This year they're going to be watching it, and if you finish 10th or 11th in the country, but that ranks 5th or 6th in the SEC, which is quite possible year in, year out, is that good enough? Will this fan base say we accept that? Is it still early enough that they'll accept that?
I think there will be some mild disappointment out there, and I'm not sure there should be at the same time. I mean, knowing what Tennessee's had to work with on the field, you're selling a 5-7 team. It's a staff that's been getting its feet underneath it over the past several months. So there's been there've been challenges, obviously. Georgia and Alabama and Clemson, a lot of teams around them are recruiting really well. So I think a top 10 class would be a heck of an achievement, honestly, for Tennessee. But I know what you're saying, and I think fans, after seeing what Butch Jones did a couple times, top 5 or borderline top 5 classes, the expectations might be a little unrealistic.
Yeah. All right, very good. When we come back, I got one way we're going to wrap up the football season, and the question is, Tennessee finished 5-7 as kind of downer. Is there another way they could have finished with the exact same record and it not have been a downer? We'll explain. Come on back on the Sports Source Kickoff, presented by Parkside Cabin Rentals.
Southeast Termite and Pest Control can help protect your home from animals, trapping and relocating wildlife, fixing the damage they cause, and preventing them from invading your home in the first place. Call Southeast Termite and Pest Control and ask about our many services.
The Lodge at Five Oaks, conveniently located within walking distance to some of the area's best attractions, restaurants, and shops. Call now for special rates throughout the week or visit thelodge@fiveoaks.com to plan your next getaway today.
Just 60 miles from Knoxville, adventure meets sanctuary at the historic Topoco Lodge, featuring the Topoco Tavern with comfortable seating inside or riverside for lunch and dinner, expanded patio dining, private rooms for events, drinks on the observation deck, and at our multiple bars. Try the Carolina Mountain Trout, a Black Angus choice ribeye, or build your own hand-tossed pizza. Experience the Topoco Tavern at the historic Topoco Lodge.
When it comes to your home, no one provides better security and audio-video systems than Safety Systems. Control everything using your tablet or smartphone, whether it's a hidden TV or the temperature in your home. Lighting, doors that open and close, lock and unlock, cameras that allow you to watch your home from wherever you may be, all at the touch of a button. Trust Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in security and audio-video systems.
Under Tennessee law, you're entitled to money damages for injuries caused by the negligence of others. How much money often depends on the diligence, skill, and experience of your attorney. A Knoxville law firm has been helping injured people for more than 30 years.
At Bill Hudson Associates, we've collected millions of dollars from insurance companies that didn't want to treat people fairly. Have you been hurt in a car wreck? Are you being treated fairly? Call us and find out.
Experience you can trust.
Did you know English Mountain Spring Water has been named the world's best tasting water? That a French competition declared it a gourmet water? Did you know English Mountain Spring Water is bottled in Dandridge? And it's available for commercial and residential water service across East Tennessee. Clear, pure water with no aftertaste. From an East Tennessee source and a local company providing unmatched service. English Mountain Spring Water.
Southeast Termite and Pest Control is locally owned, locally operated, handling thousands of commercial and residential jobs all across East Tennessee. Protect your home with a free inspection and estimate from Southeast Termite and Pest Control.
Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Bill Hodson Associates. Car accidents are serious business. We're laughing here on the desk. We wouldn't be laughing if we were involved in an accident. Certainly not if we were injured by a careless driver. If that happens, you need serious proven attorneys. And the ones to find, Bill Hodson Associates. They've been doing this for 3 decades, folks, more than 3 decades. And they have won millions of dollars for their customers, for their clients. They can help put the law on your side. Bill Hodson Associates. I want to remind you that tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we'll be talking basketball, Tennessee football, and more on the Sports Source over on Channel 6 at 11 a.m. Mike Strange returns, so we get a little basketball talk. Mark Pankratz will be there. Should be a good group. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. on Channel 6 for the Sports Source. Obviously, any new information on the offensive coordinator we'll have there as well. We only got a couple minutes here, but here's the deal. Tennessee finished 5-7. They finished last in the SEC East. They did beat 2 top 25 teams, but the way they lost those last 2 games, they were kind of going into the offseason with people grumbling a little bit. There's some gripes out there. Hugh Freeze could fix it, but there's some gripes out there right now. My question is, if Tennessee had lost to Auburn and Kentucky, finished with the exact same record, 5-7, no top 25 wins, still dead last in the East, but you win your last 2 games. You beat Missouri and Vanderbilt to end the season. Is there a better feel about this team going into the offseason than what we are experiencing in reality?
I think so. I do, because you would look at what happened the last 2 games to Missouri and Vanderbilt. You lost, what, 88-50? Take a look at Nebraska's program. They started out with 6 losses, whatever it was.
Yeah, 0-6.
But they ended up winning some games late, and you thought, aha, we see some improvement. We see a quarterback you can win with. You see it going forward. I'll even go back to 1988. They started out 0-6 and won the last 5. Well, that gave you hope for the next year. So I think what you do late in the year can have a carryover effect with the fans' perspective. So I think if they had won the last 2, the feeling would be different and better.
I agree. Josh, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree as well. Neither is going to have a celebration at the end, but I do think you would hear a lot of the look at what Jeremy Pruitt and the coaching staff did to keep their heads in it and keep them fighting until the very end instead of losing a 3rd straight to Vanderbilt. I think they would have talked about, wait, see, we got Vanderbilt at the end instead of the last couple of years.
Ryan, after the Kentucky game, I think a lot of folks, one of the reasons they got more upset after Missouri and Vanderbilt whipped you, that would bother people anyway. But I think they're more upset because, my word, disappointment. They watched that Kentucky win, and so many people thought, hey, we turned the corner. And you just walked into a brick wall. If you had won your last 2, there'd be a lot more people saying, they really did turn a corner. Look there at the end. We stunk for 6 SEC games, but then zoom at the end.
Right. And there's definitely something to be said for that. I think the net is about the same personally, because I think people look back at this season, in a few months they'll say, hey, they beat 2 ranked teams at the end of the day. It was not fun to lose to Vanderbilt and Missouri that way at the end of the year, but there were at least quality wins. They were victims of their own success in this case because that raised the bar, but I think people look at it, and what 3-7, a 3-7 start followed by 2 wins would have done is it would have given people a better idea of what the roster was, which is not very good. And this staff almost punished itself by overachieving a little bit, like you're saying. So I think it frames the season differently, but I think the net is probably about the same when you look back on it after the fact.
I don't think it should matter, because I referenced it earlier. You get these big name guys. They've hired so many big name coordinators. It didn't work out. You think about the 2 best offenses they've had in the last 10 years. It's probably the 2 guys who are the least celebrated, and Jim Chaney and Mike DeBoard. So I don't know that people should judge it this way, but I think it's going to be interesting to see where Tennessee goes with this offensive coordinator hire. If it's Hugh Freeze, I think a lot of people are cleared off of that 5-7 thing. Their mood changes, at least until signing day. If you get somebody that's not high on the list, Freddie Kitchens or something, which may be the best hire out there, who knows? I think you could see this kind of compound the bad finish and be, here we go again. So it'll be interesting to see what Tennessee does. Ryan, Jimmy, Josh, thank you all very much. I'll see some of you tomorrow at 11 on WATE 6. We will see you right back here for All Recruiting next Saturday, 10:30 a.m. here on Fox 43. Thank you for watching. See you then.
This has been a presentation of Fox 43 Sports.